Hello all, and welcome to Texas, the series where I review and comment on each installment in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre saga. On tonight's episode, we're taking on Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, or Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 4. So, no need to go over the plot. This is once again a reboot of the original. Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3 did not bring in enough money, so they thought they had to reboot the series again. And as such, this movie is again a remake of the original, pretending to be the sequel. It once again has the exact same plot. A bunch of young people get lost on the road. They end up at this house, which is full of this family, which are cannibals, which kill them off one by one, and they grab the main character, and they hold her against her will, and they force her to have a meal with them. It's the same movie again! The same movie again! Third time in a row! Third time! All over again! All over again! Oh! Will we ever actually get a sequel? We'll find out as this series goes. But is this one good or not? Is this one good? Well, this one gets a lot of hate from the fan base. And let me just say this. I have no idea why. Absolutely no idea why. This is literally the second best one in the series. Second best. First of all, what I like about this is it does Leatherface right. The Leatherface in this is a pretty faithful concept to what was presented in the original. All the kills in this movie from Leatherface are all reactional. He does them because he feels he has to. He does them out of fear. He does them out of people barging into his house and getting in his way. They're all very reactional. All of his actions are very animalistic. He seems like a dog just protecting himself. His kills in this are very reactional. They're not malicious. They're getting food for the family. They're getting the job done. They're a dog defending itself. Also, he finally starts wearing other costumes and acting in other ways and adopting different personalities again, like he did in the original. It's about freaking time. I also like the fact that he screams a lot and cries a lot and gets upset. It makes it very clear that he is a mistreated soul. He feels stepped on, mistreated, and you end up feeling a little bit of sympathy. Once again, the movie's trying to hammer home that he's not really a villain. He's just mistreated. This is just the environment. This is just all he knows. So I like the scenes of him upset and crying because of what's happening to him, because it makes it clear that he's not really supposed to be considered a villain. He's just killing because he thinks he's supposed to, and he thinks this is food, and he thinks it's what's right. So I really like the fact that this brought Leatherface, in a sense, back to what he's supposed to be, or at least it tried really gosh darn well. I also love this movie because it does something absolutely brilliant. As I mentioned in the original review, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was so good because it was mysterious. The cannibals were killing people, but you had no idea why. It made no sense. There was no proper explanation given. It was very mysterious. You can't keep making movies on the same topic, though, and keep it mysterious. You have to eventually explain why the cannibals are eating people. You have to eventually break her down, or else it just becomes silly after a while. People start getting impatient. So this movie comes up with a very interesting way to resolve the issue of having to explain why the cannibals are killing people, but also at the same time keeping it mysterious, because that mysterious element is the best thing about the original. You know, not knowing was what got us all intrigued in the first place. So explaining it all kind of takes away from the charm of the films, but you gotta explain it as the series goes. So it comes up with this brilliant idea, and that is, it does explain fully why the cannibals are killing people in this movie. Completely and utterly explains it all. But the explanation makes no sense whatsoever and raises about 5,000 more questions and just leaves the viewer completely puzzled and utterly confused. So, big spoilers. The cannibals kill people because they're hired by a dark and evil government-like organization. And that's why. Why did this government organization hire them? I don't know. What's their main goal? I don't know. Who's behind the government? I don't know. How far does it stretch? I don't know. How long has this been going on? I have no idea. You see what I mean? It gives you explanation, but the explanation is even more confusing. Everybody seems to hate this. Everybody seems to think the government being in on it is ridiculous. But I love it. It brings it back to its non-logical, nonsensical, completely out the window logic that the original presented. This is supposed to be non-logical. You're supposed to be left confused. It's supposed to feel like a bizarre episode of the TV show Lost. I love the fact that it doesn't make sense. That's what makes Texas Chainsaw Massacre Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So yeah, for those two reasons, I really love this movie. It is phenomenally enjoyable. All the cannibals are extremely entertaining. All the cannibals are like really hardcore and out of control, and that's great too. They're all very unstable, very violent characters. Half the movie is about them attacking each other, and you get the sense that they could all kill each other off at any moment, which makes the movie oddly even more intense. Also, this movie is not very gory. It has barely any blood, so it tries to go back to the bloodless style of the original. It has all the main characters die in utterly horrible ways, but it never shows it. It always hints at it. So once again, like the original, it's trying to be the disturbing aspects of the unknown. There's this one scene in this film that's really effective for that. They knock down one of the main characters. One of the cannibals puts his foot on said character's head, and then he just presses down. Now you don't see him press down, you just see his upper half of his body, but you can hear his foot going down and her bones crushing under the pressure and blood spraying out, and you don't see any of it. All you hear, all it is you hearing it. You hear the bones crack, you hear the blood splatter, and you don't see a single frame of this woman being killed. You just hear the whole thing. And that scene itself is just so unnerving and so gosh darn well done. Kudos to the filmmakers for making this movie. Utter kudos. So yeah, kudos all around. Now, of course, this wouldn't be a very good review if I didn't talk about the elephant in the room. Namely, in this movie, all of the costumes that Leatherface wears, all the faces that he wears, are all women's faces. All the skins that he's torn off and put on his face, they are all women's faces. And of course, Leatherface being Leatherface, whenever he puts on a costume of someone, he tries to adopt that personality, how he thinks we're supposed to act. So he acts in very stereotypical ways. Very, like, cleaning up the house, being all lovey and playing around with other people's hairs. Very stereotypical things. And he does this throughout the movie. And every single negative review that I've read on this movie, every single review saying it's crap, always, almost always, opens with the same thing. Some really offensive words coming up here. Warning, big warning. I hate this movie because it turned Leatherface into a tranny. I hate that they did that. I hate what this movie stands for. And that's what it is. Almost every single time. Now, I just want to say this. Leatherface blatantly has nothing to do with trans people. Blatantly. There is nothing in this even remotely connected to that in any way. As I explained in my original review, Leatherface tries to adopt other people's personalities. And he would dress up in guys' outfits just as much as he would dress up in a woman's outfit. That's what he does. He tries to become other people. There is no trans person that's like that, and there will never be any trans persons like that, because that's not what that means. And to think that that is what that means is really, really twisted. Also, it should be noted, this is nowhere close to what cross-dressing is either. That cross-dressing is not bad at all, And, nothing like this. No crossdresser has ever ripped off someone's face, put it on their face, and tried to be a different person. That's not how that freaking works, okay? And once again, I'm going to state that the movies, up until this point, have made it very clear that Leatherface is trying to adopt different personalities because he doesn't know how people actually are. That's the concept behind him wearing other people's faces. Has nothing to do with cross-dressing. Has nothing to do with trans. By the way, those two things aren't even the same thing. Has nothing to do with any of that. So I think it's horrible that people could watch this and think it's actually related to that in some way. I do think that, this movie didn't intentionally attack the trans community. I think it wouldn't be a half bad idea to have a Texas Chainsaw Massacre with a trans character. Be a hero character, fight off some Campbells, kill some Campbells, somehow live through the night to kind of make up for a little bit. Not necessarily needed, but hey, a lot of movies could use trans characters. Not a bad idea either. But I honestly don't think this movie was meant to hurt anyone, and it really annoys me that people can actually watch this and think for a half of a second that this is what a trans person is. That's utterly ridiculous. So if you're one of the people that bashed this movie, if you didn't like the movie, that's fine. That's fine. But if you bashed this movie because you thought Leatherface acted like a crossdresser, I'm going to beat you. If I ever bump into you, I'm going to beat you. Because that is so far detached from this. It is utterly ridiculous that you would even compare the two. And you are not a nice person. So I'm just saying that flat out. But yeah, it wouldn't be a half bad idea for there to be a trans character in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and have them be a heroic character that somehow lives through the night and kills a cannibal or two. That might be cool. They could totally do that, and I would totally support that. I don't think it's going to happen, though, which is kind of sad. But in any case, this movie itself is still an underrated gem. It's my second favorite in the series. A solid 9 out of 10 from me. Fantastic, phenomenal film that has everything a Texas Chainsaw Massacre should be. Only problem is it's not really a sequel, but still everything a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film should be. And I love every single minute of it. I highly recommend it. Check it out. It is a must. And yes, it has a lot of negative reviews. And no, I will never understand them. It is just an awesome flick. Watch it now. Let's find out if the next installment is as good as this one. And we'll find out next time.